heard plenty of talk about the death of the CBD, right? The donut effect that Christchurch had with the malls on the outskirts and nothing in the centre, although that's starting to change. We had the work from home effect. But our next speaker believes the story is far from over, and that the question isn't whether our city centres will survive, it's how they will evolve. Ben van Bruggen brings nearly 30 years of experience in urban design, regeneration and planning with projects spanning the UK, Europe, China and New Zealand. So he's the perfect person to tell us what's working and what's not in city centres around the world and how we can reimagine our own. So please join me in welcoming Ben van Bruggen.
Kia ora. Ko Ben van Bruggen tēnei. How you all feeling? All right, good. Well, thank you, Property Council, for allowing me the opportunity to come and speak to you today, and also for all of you for being here. Post-lunch, so let's put the phones down. We're going to do a very quick little exercise just to make sure that your digestion is going well. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand up, and I want you to find somebody who you don't know, so a stranger. May be difficult because it's obviously incestuous business, incestuous property stuff, but try and find somebody that you think you don't know. But, this is a crucial point, I want you to treat them as if they were somebody you haven't seen for like 5 or 10 years. So you can do a quick kind of, what's your name, so you know, but then, kind of like, oh, what have you been doing, how have you been, all right? So let's just get some energy back into the room after dinner. So you've got 1 minute, I'll put the clock on, go. Thirty seconds, 30 seconds. Okay, all right. Let's, I knew this was going to be difficult to break up. All right, let's sit down again. All right, very good, very good. This is brilliant. Look, there's people still going. How do you feel now, right? When you sat down after lunch, coming in, how do you feel now, right? I mean, it helps out to follow the RMA reform, but you feel good, yeah? You've met somebody you didn't know, you've had a conversation, it stimulates your brain. We intrinsically find these things to be wonderful, fascinating, and brilliant. And that's what cities do better than anything else on the planet, is they bring people together, they get strangers to meet. So what are cities for? They're for sex. Your chances of meeting somebody to have sex with are way, way higher in a city than they are anywhere else. Now, I don't want to lower the tone too much, but it's intimate minglings, and the sex is a proxy for connection. It's for relationship, and that's what cities do. They build relationships and connections. It's no coincidence that the sitcoms were about young people finding love, romance, and opportunities in cities, because cities make all of those things possible. We don't have sitcoms about white men getting in their utes to go and play golf who also live in cities. That doesn't happen. But none of this, cities are not chaotic. We often think that they're kind of crazy places that we have no control over. But actually, we don't build them by chance, and there are some very good and observable patterns that good cities in particular exhibit. And cities make sense to us. We feel comfortable in them, or good cities rather make sense to us because we feel comfortable in them. We feel like we can visit and explore what's going on. We get to meet people. We get to work. We get to invest money and time in these places. We have fun and we have excitement. It's what we call an urban buzz. And when we come together in these cities and in these places in close proximity, we are stimulated. So cities are places of stimulation, invigoration, experimentation, enhancement, and accelerators of all the human conditions. They're places of passion, of protest, of violence, of terror. But when they go wrong, we are often scared in them. We feel lonely. We feel like we're lost. There are accidents and there are consequences of those things. And each one of us has a unique experience to cities, that's true, but we also have some commonalities and similarities. And it's connection that makes all of these things possible. Winston Churchill, in 1947, post-World War, the House of Commons had been bombed, and there was a discussion in Parliament about whether they should change the layout of House of Commons to make it much bigger and have a big horseshoe Parliament, House of Commons. Winston Churchill said, "We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us." And he made a plea to say that the House of Commons was deliberately designed in a way that reinforced British life and democracy. There was conflict in there. You're sitting opposite each other. But he said people packed in meant that whilst you're in that chamber in conflict, when you left, you were going to bump into these people. You had to get on with them. So the chamber was a reflection of what he saw as being the UK Parliament. And I think that we shape our cities, and thereafter they shape us. We are wired for proximity. We like coming together in networks, in dense networks, and that gives us opportunities. And streets and retail are providing the stage for those interactions to happen. An author, Geoffrey West, wrote a book called Scale. In it, he observed that animals and even companies, when they grow, they become less efficient and less productive. In fact, if you double the size of your company, you're only going to increase your productivity by 75%. Cities are unique in that they don't do that. If you double the size of a city, you get 125% more efficiency and productivity. That's the good stuff. That's the GDP, the innovation, the tech, the entrepreneurships, and it's the bad stuff: crime, pollution, homelessness. They say that by 2050, there will be 100 megacities of 10 million people or more. 1 in 8 of us are already living in 33 megacities of that size. In 1947, Karachi was about 500,000 people. It was actually about the same size as Auckland. Today, it is 21 million. Whilst it took New York 150 years to reach 8 million people, Sao Paulo did it in 15 years. In 1926, Auckland was 300,000 people, roughly, and was about a third larger than either Christchurch or Wellington. Today, it is 1.8 million and is 4 times larger than either of those cities. And cities around the world are predominantly young, with 3/4 of them being under the age of 30. You'll see Hong Kong Island there. Hong Kong Island is home to about 1.3, 1.4 million people. It's roughly half of it is open space. The blue outline is Waiheke Island, to the same scale. So we could all pack up, ship off to Waiheke, live at Hong Kong densities, still have half of Waiheke Island free for public space, and have nothing here. Density's like just a number. It's kind of, how do we feel? That always makes me think, yeah, we're kind of low density around here. And of course, our highway engineers and our planners have said we should have these separate zones. We live here, we work here, we play here. But what that's led to is the endless pursuit of these highways. And instead of it whisking us magically and speedily between these places, we've ended up with traffic jams, pollution, and road deaths. It's true. I think maybe it doesn't apply to Liam Lawson, but he's about the only person I know who wouldn't be doing it. So we've become to live and work in a car-dependent society and car-dependent cities. And the consequences of that are obesity, loneliness, and anger. We kill way too many young people in this country, and the young people are overrepresented in road deaths. Whilst they make up 13% of the population of Auckland, they're 26% of the deaths. And we have the dubious accolade of there are now 871 cars per 1,000 occupants in New Zealand. America has 860. So we are world leading in the number of cars that we own. And whilst we have had many decreases in road deaths, particularly young people, it is a real black mark against us that we've just accepted the fact that we will kill young people on our streets. But things are changing, and this bit is going to be Auckland-centric. Don't apologise for that. But the stage is being set for something quite different. And we are trying to tilt the odds to these lucky connections in a bit easier way. Just 10 years ago, this was Quay Street. We often forget when things are kind of put in place, we forget what they used to be like. So I'm just going to run through a couple of slides just to kind of refresh our memory about these things. And then it went through a bit of a phase where the interim cycleway came along and they started actually rebuilding the quayside for the flood defences. And then today it's that, and it's the highest use cycle route in all of the country. It's quite a transformation. Te Komitatanga Square was a bus stop, or bus station rather, and a pretty drab square. And today, it feels as though it's kind of always been there. It feels as though it's a grand space in front of a grand station. And that's the genius about the design, is that you feel it's always been there. And of course, new life has come and new activities. The Queen Street as well. I like this one because back in the 1970s, what was called the Business Association, get that right, put money into fighting the pedestrianisation of Queen Street between Wyndham and Customs Street. This was going to ruin Auckland, was the pedestrianisation of Queen Street. And that's what it was like not 10 years ago. We then had that bit of an awkward stage, I think we can all agree, where we weren't quite sure what we were doing. But this was an experiment. We were testing things out. We were trying things, seeing what worked and what didn't work. And then, of course, today, that's where we are. And, I think there are still some issues around it, but I don't think anyone would really, really want to go back. Not anyone sensible, anyway. We've got some great news about the CRL opening, and we don't know quite when that is, and everybody's talking about it, and the game changer and everything else. But there's some other stuff going on, and another hero of this story for Auckland is the frequent transit network. So this image by M.R. Cagney, who've done some great work on lots of these different things for the city, shows the proposed and existing frequent transit network. That is a 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 7 days a week, 15-minute intervals. And it could be some other city. Like, it doesn't always feel like, is that Auckland? Is it really that extensive? But actually lots of work has been done in order to make that happen. And then, of course, proposals from the City Centre Master Plan for access for everyone, which is this frequent network will help enable by allowing Queen Street to become this mainly pedestrian mall with vehicles and access coming in from the motorway in different areas. But we still have some challenges. We still know that our decision-making is often very fragmented. If you are promoting, Auckland Council in particular will be promoting the idea of the nighttime economy, but then on the other hand, they're quite strict on enforcement of noise and alcohol rules and other things. These things aren't really working together, and that goes across planning and transport and lots of other things. So the decision-making, in my view, is fragmented. We also have challenges of vacant shops. One vacant unit can destroy a whole block. Experience has been around some risk-averse leasing in trying to get meanwhile uses and activity back into some of these spaces, and I can tell you a personal story later. And of course the issue of how do we store our cars? We seem to be allowing them to be stored on our streets, thinking that free parking and allowing hours worth of parking is a good thing, when maybe actually what we want is rotation. We want churn. We want people to come in, drop off, use servicing, really get a lot more from our curbside. That's a bit of a challenge that we face. I didn't realise the volume was on. Sorry about that. I'll come off there. Okay, let's get through this quickly. You've got kind of two approaches to the same thing down in Newmarket. One is a sign that says New Zealand's ultimate destination, and the other is a shop owner with a sign out on the street making you smile. The one on the right, I feel, is quite inauthentic. I don't think Newmarket is the ultimate destination, and that doesn't really appeal to me. But the guy on the left with the banner, it always makes me smile every time I see him. Maybe we need more experience improvement districts and less business improvement districts, or maybe they could actually be the same thing. There's lots of examples from around the world of pop-ups and how they've really transformed places. So the Urban Room is an organisation which I founded and is now a registered charity, and we're on a mission to make New Zealand cities the best in the world. I would add, again. There was a time when they were. But we need places for honest and open conversations about what we all want for the future. This is London, which has what's called the NLA, which is a gallery. It's a public gallery that explores the city, explores the future of the city, and how we can come together as developers, as retail experts, as property owners, as agents, as citizens, as politicians, in order to make the city better. Paris, Helsinki, Berlin, there are a number of them that create these spaces, and they help us deliver trust. I think 21% or so of people voted for the local election in Auckland, which seems low, but fewer than 5% actually comment on public planning consultations, and most of those are from professional people. So we're not really getting to understand what people really want, and places like this can achieve that. On the left, you've got Singapore, this left here, which has a fantastic city gallery. If you're in Singapore, go visit it. In Stockholm, in the middle, every child in Stockholm gets a visit to the Stockholm Room, and on the right-hand side is the Newcastle Urban Room. And we want to recreate one for Auckland and for other cities, but we're going to start with Auckland. We made a bit of a start, thanks to Precinct Properties, who took a bit of a punt on us coming in and helping to activate a space that they had. They were great in terms of the lease that I was able to sign with them, not knowing anything about these things. But there are these physical models that exist of Auckland. If you've been up to Auckland House, where Auckland Council is, tucked around the corner is this 1939 model. There's a whole long story about it, but basically in 1939 there was an exhibition for Centenary of New Zealand, which was meant to be a World Expo. 1939 was really bad for travel, particularly by sea, so it never really got going. But government commissioned 12 towns and cities to have scale models made. And this is the only piece of the only one that exists, as far as we've found out, which is the central bit of Auckland and showing Queen Street. And so we put that on display along with a 1968 model that was built as the working model, the working master plan for the city centre. You would literally hack away at a piece of the model, take it out, and then put a new building in. And there's a whole story about how we found this and where it was and how we actually put it back together. But trying to find where the pieces went, and there were many buildings that hadn't been built. They were just proposals. So you had no idea quite where they went. So trying to figure that out was a really fascinating thing. But we had a small pop-up for about 4 months down on Quay Street, which we displayed these models and we held talks about the models. But really, we were just asking people, what do you want Auckland to be known for in the next 10 years? What do you want for the future? Quite simple. We've also been holding events. Last April, April before, we had an event with Jeanette Sadiq Khan, who is the Transport Commissioner for New York under Mayor Bloomberg, with Helen Clark. And what we try and do is to nut out some of these issues in a collaborative way, put an issue on the table, and then decide who's best placed to deal with this. How do we deal with it? In my time in there, I had 1,000 conversations with people, asking them the same question. What do you want for the future? What are some of your big ideas? There was a great one there that said, we need an indoor skate park. And I'm thinking, Smith & Co. indoor skate park on Queen Street? There's a thing called Shreddenham's in the UK, which has taken over the Debenhams department stores and turned them into indoor skate parks. You have a ramp up the escalator. It's absolutely fantastic. And what came out of those conversations was really boiled down into 3 very simple things that formed a bit of a vision. People wanted greenery, and to people that meant street trees. That's what they wanted. They wanted to see street trees. The second one was that they didn't want things to buy or things just to buy. They wanted things to do. They wanted that experience. And the other one was safety. And it's kind of obvious, right? You want to feel safe. And I get that from children, from women and things. But what struck me was also that people said they don't feel safe driving cars and driving into the city centre. Red light running, lack of enforcement, bad driving, bad roads, bad cars. There was a real noticeable comment about that it doesn't feel safe driving around the city. So we have to do something about that. But cities are wonderful to take us back. They're wonderful transaction machines. They're the places of innovation. They're the places of accelerating these ideas. And great cities have great public spaces and great spaces where strangers can meet. And I believe that great cities also have really great urban rooms. We're at a stage of growing the urban room, and we need your help, and we need your support. So I'd really love it for you to, if you would join us. It doesn't cost you anything to sign up. You can subscribe. We'll send you things about events. We're a small, growing organisation. But we want to get a physical room in Auckland to start with, and then grow it from there. A space where we can display these models, we can have people come in, we can talk to them about what they want for the future of the city. So if you can help, if you can find us a space, preferably for free, with some pretty decent terms on leases and things, it takes me a month and a half to move these models in and out, that would be great. And if you want to sponsor us and be a patron or something else, then please do. But we're all in this together, and I think we can create the best cities in the world in New Zealand if we get together and we use spaces like an urban room in order to formulate ideas and get stuff done. Thank you very much. None of you.
Thank you very much. Those models, those old models, are quite fascinating. There's quite a few questions here about the comments on Queen Street, which probably won't surprise you. Given the impact on retail of beautifying it and making it better for pedestrians, what about the impact on the retailers? Is that something you could comment on? Yeah,
I mean, disruption is always difficult, and we don't handle that very well here. I'm reminded in Montreal has two seasons. There's winter and construction. And there they have a process whereby if you're affected by construction, you get compensation. We don't really have that here. For CRL, there was a compensation scheme if you were directly joining the CRL. But if you were disrupted by moving in traffic, you didn't get that. Whereas in Montreal, they see that. So businesses don't object to things like Queen Street going in because they're not going to be losing out. And I think that's important, is that we don't treat them in that way. And so we should see the disruption not as being something that's really going to impact us, and that way we should help with that, and like I say, be all in it together. But as time goes by, I think people will realise that the part of the Queen Street, why it's doing it, is about connections. It's about bringing people there. It's not about parking cars. Imagine if all of you were sat on one table in this room. Like, you wouldn't be connecting, you wouldn't be meeting, you wouldn't be doing that. We need to not have, these spaces which are taken up with cars all the time.
What are your views on the intensification changes facing Auckland? And based on your expertise, what distinguishes good from bad density?
Yeah. Design is what distinguishes good from bad density, and really taking the approach to quality design. We do need intensification, I think, and I think we can do it really, really well. We've got a real opportunity to create some amazing kind of like urban villages around some of our stations and transport connections if we do them right. This isn't about 40-storey towers. It's probably about 6-7-storey kind of development, and I think that will really, there's an unmet demand for that to happen, and I think we can create some really new and exciting places by doing it. But we do have to up our design quite substantially.
What global examples show cities successfully revitalising their centres post-pandemic, and what lessons might we be able to take from them?
I think there's a lot. I mean, I often go to Paris and London. Paris and London are in this competition for people now. The Mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo's, in her 2 terms, has got rid of 70,000 car parking spaces and has implemented a whole raft of cycling elements. And a report, I can't remember who wrote it, but companies were choosing to relocate in Paris for that reason, because it was actually in a renaissance of having cleaner air, more stuff to do, more people, not being this car-centric place. And London is trying to compete with that as well. So I think there are lots of examples. It depends on your topic. So I'd kind of pick different things from different examples. And we have all the skills here to really kind of translate this stuff into some really exciting things that we could do differently here. We don't always have to look overseas, but we should take inspiration from other places and use it as a way of testing out some of those ideas here.
What needs to happen in Tauranga's CBD?
Oh. I don't know. I haven't been to Tauranga. It'd be unfair of me to... I haven't been there for a long time. It'd be unfair of me to talk about it. But the main thing, coming back to the basics, the point about cities is that they connect. So if you're pushing things away and you're making things at longer distances, it doesn't matter how much you're kind of connecting them in fast routes. We need to think about how people connect when they're in those spaces. The deals are still done in the street, if that makes sense. The City of London is still on a medieval street pattern, really narrow, just a few metres wide streets with towers. But all the deals are still done in the bars, the cafes, the pubs and the streets of that space. So they haven't got rid of it. They've kind of kept it as part of the DNA of it. So I think the more we can connect people, bring uses, many, many more mixed uses, a lot of residential in our towns and city centres would really help with that as well.
I know you said that people don't just want things to buy, they want things to do in the city centres, but what role can retail play in reactivating and bringing life to those city centres?
I think having vacant spaces is really damaging. In San Francisco, the downtown was really decimated through COVID. They've got a proposal there called the San Francisco New Deal, where they will help temporary uses come in. There's even a proposal, I think, where you can hire by the hour a shop fit out, rails, drawers, display cabinets, if you want to. And they're helping put people in there. 50% of those have been converted to permanent tenancies. So I think we need to be much more creative and imaginative about what we're doing and see the retail as part of the theatre of the street. It's the more it can contribute to the street, the more that experience happens and the more people will come for that experience.
Maybe just finally, what sort of policy or planning changes do you think are most urgently needed in order to bring about this sort of inner city utopia?
I don't know if it's a utopia. I think there have been some good changes. Policies do get changed quite a lot on these things. But I think we need, my plea is for a much more coordinated approach to these things. We need regeneration agencies that can kind of come in and go, we are going to buy this bit of land because it unlocks something else. We need them to come in and put things together, help make things happen. And then I would abandon a lot of the zoning. I think Auckland has 52 different zones. I mean, Christ. Like Japan has 13 for the entire country. We can do without a lot of this zoning, which just gives work to planners. Sorry, the planners in the room. So I think we can simplify some of these things, but I'm reluctant to kind of go, here's the one thing, because the one thing is integrating all of these things, which is a hard thing to do.
Which is actually lots of things.
Which is lots of things, but really we've just got to kind of grow up and go, yeah, that's not your thing or just your thing. It's coming here together. Get out of the silos, get working together, be collaborative about it.
Well, thank you very much for your time and your presentation, Ben van Bruggen. Please put your hands
together.